So we've gone through the simple lens, which is the three W's and path to success. We talked about going deep, which is asking not just the three W's, but the three WNs. Why not just not do anything? We've talked about the breadth, which is, making sure you've got a champion and a sponsor and they're three W's and they're not the same. And sometimes the more complex the deal is, the more you have to find more than two. You might have several champions. If you sell through a partner, you got to get the three W's of the partner, their organization, and the rep specifically. And so we've covered all that. Now what we're going to do is look at the status update. The status update is so important for a couple of reasons. One is it is where you can tell if your reps, if you have reps already, are using the simple lens to work their deals. Because in the status update, you have to review your deal using very precise words, a shared language, we all agree what it means. And people come prepared to unit test their deals. We'll go over this more in the live view, but when you have a deal that you're doing the three W's for, and you might say, this account, it's Walter, opportunity, the co's name, the close date if you got one. And I have 3 rows here just because usually the person, the rep will, or the founder will give an answer that's okay. And then I'll workshop it with you and come up with a better one. And then if you still need an example that's even more rigorous, I might come up with what I would say if I were you. And we'll do this in the workshop. And people report that this is by far the most impactful thing, because so far we've been talking concepts. And if you're really smart and you're really diligent, you're probably going, yeah, this all sounds good, but does it really work? And some people think it's too simple. When we start to get into this, light bulbs start to go off. And so basically, before our session together, our live session together, what I'd like you to do is go and do a status update. And for each opportunity, answer these fields. And specifically, once you put in the name of the co, you want to be able to, and by the way, a status update should be about a minute. And so you want to answer what's changed, what's your next step, what's your biggest concern or challenge. And here's the thing, you got to have one. And a lot of reps are like, I'm not concerned about anything. Nothing's challenging me. And usually it's a junior rep that hasn't been effed every single which way they can be effed. And so what you need to say is, okay, if you had to have one, what would it be? And what you'll find is the answer to the biggest concern or challenge is usually a red flag, an indication of one or more of these units not passing. So it might be like, okay, so here's a co. What's changed? The first time the rep might say, we demoed. The next step might be send proposal, waiting for, feedback. Biggest concern is they might go cheaper route. Okay, cool. And so then what we do is we go through the unit testing, and basically when someone says they might go through a cheaper route, that really makes me think, okay, maybe there's no why by us, because why by us gives you an answer of what happens, why not go do this yourself or go this with another competitor, which is a cheaper route, if there is one. And what the biggest concern there tells me is there's not a strong answer here. And so I would, bring the rep through that unit. Notice they didn't give me a lot of context of the deal, but I was able to say, okay, well, let's talk about that. And let's talk about why us, right? And then you talk about why us. And as you go through it, you might also say, it's not just why us, but a cheaper route. Maybe they're not looking at this problem as such a big problem. maybe the value of solving this to them isn't as much as you're charging. It's actually something less, and that's why they might go with a cheaper account. So you might also go to a why buy anything. But as you'll notice, the biggest concern or challenge is what helps you figure out which unit you should test. So that's the first time around. The biggest concern or challenge shows you where the red flag is to focus. And usually with the rep, if this is a real pipeline meeting, what I would do is I would get them the report on that. I might have 1 or 2 questions. And then I would say, you know what? I think there might not be a why by us. Let's set that up for our next one-on-one to go through that. And I want to talk through that. So I call this a status update, this format. And then, what I just did was I poked it. I said, I think I'm going to poke why by us. And if you have a big meeting and a lot of people in the room, then you just continue. And then on a one-on-one, you go through that. As reps and other founding team members get this process, sometimes poking it saying, you know what, I think why by us is an issue. And they might be like, oh crap, you're right. And then they'll go work on getting a better answer to why us. And so you don't actually have to workshop it. Now, what we're going to do together is go through this. And after we talk about this, what's changed, we demoed, I would ask, okay, did you get the 3 W's in the demo? Because what's changed is it might be we got why us, or we got why anything, but not why us or now. If you notice, I'm using the language of the 3 W's to say what's changed. And then in terms of what's next steps, sure, you send a proposal and you're waiting for feedback, but that doesn't really tell me much. It doesn't tell me if you are working this as a surgeon. So next steps is more like send request meeting with Champ to try to get why by us. And a biggest concern might be no why by us and might not get access to Champion. Champion might not have sponsors answer to why by us. So you notice when I say the language of the 3 W's, the simple lens, you can see how I'm using champion, sponsor, why by us, why by now. And it's an incredibly precise and consistent way to talk about deals. And then you can decide which ones to go down in and ask for more context just with that unit. And as you'll notice, there'll be far less stories in your pipeline reviews. And you'll be able to be much faster at all the hundreds of questions you get asked about a deal to get context. You know to ask the 2 or 3. And then as you work with a team, you don't have to go and review everything. You just point to where it hurts, point to where the soft spot often says, go figure it out.